What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing well. It's Tuesday. Feels like a Monday, right? But it's Tuesday. We'll have a couple days of school, maybe another snow day. Who knows? But this week we'll be working on that Ban the Ban, those two articles right in a row. We've read probably half of it already. Today we'll get the vocabulary out of the way. It's pretty tricky. With these vocabulary sheets, I'm not asking you to memorize these, just work with the words for a little bit. 8 out of the 12, I think we have. So you'll have a better understanding if you see them in high school, which you probably will with most of these. So I think it's a pretty difficult article. Lots of new vocabulary, lots that you might see in social studies class when talking about laws coming into effect. So why don't we get into these right now? We'll go over each of them. Some of the more difficult ones, I actually have a sentence that might help, but here we go. So the first one is prohibition. That's the 18th Amendment. If you remember last week, we watched a short video on it. It's just a time in the country. Prohibition, it's right at the beginning, is like prohibit. So think like that. It's when alcohol, it was illegal to, I don't think it was illegal to consume, but so you could drink it. You just couldn't make it. You couldn't sell it, and you couldn't transport it. So made it pretty hard to come by. We talked about the rise in crime that happened during Prohibition, and eventually the 21st Amendment said that didn't work so well. It was repealed. All right. Let me know if there are any questions about that. The next one, implemented. Implemented. I'll make that a little bigger. You can see to put into action. And it looks like a bunch of people, maybe like a law or something being written up. And I do have a sentence for you. The principal implemented a rule that no hats could be worn in the building. So you put it into action. You make it happen. So how about this? Ooh, basketball. It's basketball season. There are some basketball players in here. You might say, hey, I implemented a new technique when I shoot the ball. So you put it into action. I don't know, maybe something to do with a follow through or something, but you added it. You tried to use it. That's implemented. Oh, how about this? Has this ever happened to you? If you have headphones that you plug in, I usually have AirPods, but sometimes one of my AirPods kind of jiggles around a little bit, and my Apple Care ran out last month. So I was thinking, maybe if I just switch back to the wired ones for a little while. I don't know. But have you ever gotten the little thing, what do you call it? Little doohickey thing stuck in the port? You might have to implement a sharp object to get that out. Very frustrating, but implement means to use or to put into action. Because if you implement a law, it's not like you're using it. So little tricky one there. Hopefully that helps. The next one, mandate. Mandate. Let's take a look at the definition first. An official order or commission to do something. So mandate can be a noun. It can be a mandate, or it can be a verb. You can mandate something, but both are like really official. Somebody with some sort of power would do it. I didn't want to use principal here because it's a little bit bigger than just like for a building. It's getting a little hot. So it would be like a government official who does this. And I just used an example from our story, the article about implementing a ban on soda. So the official mandate came from the mayor. No soda cups bigger than 32 ounces were allowed. So hopefully that makes sense. I think that's a new word for a lot of people. The mandate was to ban 32-ounce sodas. The mayor mandated sodas should be banned. So it can be used as a noun or it can be used as a verb. The next one, intervene. Let's see, make that a little bit bigger, put it at the top so you can see it. It means to come between so as to prevent or alter a result, or course of events. So for some reason, this might not be new for everybody, but if somebody intervenes in a fight, they try to break up that fight. Um, Maybe there was some sort of argument. Maybe there was something going the way you didn't want it to go. So you intervened and you tried to change the course of it. All right. Maybe, oh man, what about, we don't have, for years in my old middle school, when I used to teach at Lewiston, Portland, we had talent shows. Sometimes students would get up there and they weren't that talented. And they kind of, it was a little cringy. Maybe you have a friend. They're like, yeah, I'm a really good singer. I want to get up there, sing in the talent show. You can intervene and say, you know what? I don't know how you would say this nicely, but maybe do it next year. You might need a little work. You might lose a friend, but I don't know. You might save them some embarrassment. So if you intervene, like they are going to go on stage to sing, whoa, hang on. You're intervening. So it doesn't have to be a fight, but you just come in between and change some things. All right, my next one here, one of my favorites, indulge, right here. Indulge, you can see it's a verb. To give in to a wish or desire, give oneself up to. So this is usually when there's a good thing that you like, but it might be bad for you. Maybe not horribly bad. Indulge. So in our article, some people might like to indulge in some soda. It's not the best for you, but every once in a while, maybe not the worst thing. I don't know. Depends on your idea of health here. But how about this? This is not true in the winter for me, but sometimes in the summer, seems like, got to watch the old weight, but that's indulging sometimes when you're like, whatever, maybe I'm on a diet, but I'm going to indulge. I'm going to spoil myself for a second. I like to indulge in a nice tub of ice cream after I get home from school. It's good stuff. So anytime that you kind of spoil yourself, maybe you buy something a little bit too expensive, but you're indulging when you do that. You're spoiling yourself a little bit. Hope that helps. That's a fun one, in my opinion. The next one, civil liberties. Civil liberties. These are constitutional freedoms guaranteed to all citizens. I'll try to make this a little bigger, but if you see that picture right there, you can see it says academic freedom, free speech, free assembly. So your civil liberties are what the Constitution guarantees you. So you have free speech. What was that? Assemblies? Was it? Yeah, it's just like if we have an assembly at school. But the Constitution allows you to gather with other people to protest. That part of your civil liberties. So anytime you hear of somebody's civil liberties being threatened, it's like the basic, at least in this country, what we think like are just the absolute basic rights that a person has. So freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to assemble, those kind of things. So those are your civil liberties. You've heard of them before, but it's probably never called civil liberties. Hope that helps. Now I need to make it a little bit smaller, but this next one is slippery slope. We have talked very briefly about that one, slippery slope. It just means, well, let's read it here. It just means taking a first step that will lead to worse steps that cannot be prevented. A slippery slope. And you see that person falling right there. So when you hear slippery slope, think of that. Like once you get to the edge, there might be no coming back. And it starts with that first step. So in our article, I just used the example right down there. In the city, if the city first bans soda cups, they might ban butter on your popcorn at the movies. That was one of the examples. So little by little, people's civil liberties could be threatened. And that slippery slope might have us in, it starts with little steps, but by the end of it, maybe we're living in like a North Korea. That's what some of the people people using that argument against the ban would say, hey, it starts here. Where's it going to end? It could be a slippery slope. No way to recover. You let the government take an inch, they're going to take much more. Slippery slope. In Mr. Bim's class, I like to bring social studies in every time I can. You'll be talking, we've talked about it a little bit here, but the domino effect with communism around the world during the Cold War. One country falls, it was called the domino effect, but like if Vietnam fell, then all the countries around Vietnam would also fall. That's it's a slippery slope. Like, one country goes communist, they might all go communist. Who knows? Obviously, it didn't happen, but at the time, maybe a lot of people were against that war. But we'll talk about the Vietnam War a little bit later in the beginning of the fourth quarter when we talk about like Laos and Cambodia. Some genocides took place there. This one, I think this might be review. Dictate. Did we have this one? I can't remember, but we did have a whole series on dict with a T at the end there. So that means to say, you probably know dictator. Dictate is like a command. It's an order. So you can see here, I'll make it bigger. It looks like there's some man, this may be from like the 1950s. There's this man that is talking, and this person right here is writing it. So we talked in the last one, I know we talked about like a dictation. If somebody is talking, somebody is taking a dictation, they're writing it. But to dictate something, a dictator might do it. It's forcing people to do this. Hope that makes sense. And you can see the definition right there, to give orders. Hope that helps. The next one, interface. Interface, the way something allows you to connect with it. So it does come from technology. And if you see there, it looks like, I don't know, maybe like a computer chip, and maybe that helps you do something with computers. It's like an in-between. So one thing over here, one thing on the other side, and then in the middle, there's the interface. So you can talk about it with technology, but you can talk about it with people interacting as well. So I have a sentence here. Doesn't apply to me. My father and I got along great when he was alive. Hard to not get along with someone when they're not around, right? But when he was around, we got along fine. So this is not about me. This is just an example. But my father and I don't interface well with each other. It's just another way to say we don't get along, or when we're in the same room, it's kind of like cats and dogs. It just doesn't work. Interface. But if you interface well with someone, that means you can work with them well, get along with them well. Hope that helps. All right, the next one, get rid of this. This could be tricky. Hopefully you're still with me. Lots and lots of information, I know. Inherent. Okay, it's not inherent. Inherent. But the definitions and the sounds, the pronunciation, they're really close. But let me just read it here. Let me make it bigger here. Inherent. Existing as a natural part. So I think of it as like when you get right down to the core, that's the inherent part of it. So I have a sentence for you. Inherent part of serving in the military is willing to give up your life for your country. So that's at its core. When you join the military, in the back of your mind, that's got to be part of it. Like, hey, I'm willing to give my life for my country. So an inherent part of school, at least at the middle school level, would be, sitting in class and listening to information. That's like at its core, that's an inherent part of education. Like think about the most basic part of something or somebody at its core. If you have any questions about that, I'll be around, The next one, let's get rid of this, make this a little bigger. Impose. So you can impose your will on somebody. impose, to forcibly place upon. So in the article, they might think that this mayor is imposing a ban on soda, like forcing it on them, which he kind of is. Mayor Bloomberg, impose. So you can impose your authority. You can impose your will on somebody, forcing somebody to do something. All right, almost done here. 2 more. Precisely, exactly, precisely. And you can see that that dartboard, it actually says exactly. So those are synonyms. Those can be used. But that dart shot is pretty precise. That person precisely hit the bullseye. So precisely is it's an adverb. We don't have to go into all that, but it describes adjectives, things like that. If this was earlier in the lesson, I would spend more time on it, but precisely, it means exactly. And I think this is the last one. Yeah. Contradicted. That means to say the opposite of somebody, to disagree. And you can see those street signs right there. It says, do not enter, enter only. Like, that's the exact opposite. So those signs are contradicting each other. Anytime you hear contra, think the opposite. And so remember, dict means to say. So that word literally means to say the opposite. Parents, teenagers, they get along so well, right? A lot of times, teenagers and parents contradict each other. They say the exact opposite. All right. Hope this helps. I'm coming around to everybody. Hopefully that study guide, you got a little ways on it. 8 out of the 12 or so. All right. See you later. Adios, amigos.